The laugh came before I saw her. Not the fake kind she used on conference calls, the real one. The one I hadn't heard in months. It floated down the hallway like perfume from another life. Keys jingled. A suitcase rolled across the tile. Then the front door clicked shut behind her. "Baby," she called. "I'm home." I didn't answer. I was sitting perfectly still in the kitchen. Lights off. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the fading sound of her heels tapping toward the bedroom. She passed me without looking. Still smiling. Still laughing to herself, like someone coming back from a romantic comedy instead of a corporate seminar. I heard her drop her phone on the dresser, unzip her bag, and hum that song again, the one she'd picked up recently. One of those mood songs people only sing when they think no one's watching. Then everything went quiet, for about 3 seconds. Then, "Where is it?" Her voice, sharp, different. The sound of rustling. Zippers. Drawers. Closet doors opening. Then, louder. "Called her? Where did you put it?" Still, I didn't answer. I wanted to hear her say which it she meant. The gift bag? The necklace? The charger she never packed? The letter I found. She ran back down the hall, footsteps quicker now, bare, feet slapping wood. And when she stepped into the kitchen, her face froze. Because that's where I'd left the envelope. Right on the table. A single sheet inside. One photo. No note, just a timestamp in the corner. 10:14 p.m., room 219. Hilton Garden Inn. Her, standing barefoot in front of a hotel mirror. Her dress half-zipped. And a hand, not hers, on her waist. She looked at the photo, then at me. Still no words. So I asked one question. "Did you at least enjoy the work trip?" She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Only silence, only panic. And for the first time in a very long time, I just sat there and let it happen. Her hand moved slowly toward the photo, like she could swipe it away the way she would on her phone. But the moment her fingers touched the edge of the glossy paper, she pulled back, as if it burned. She looked at me, mouth half open, but still no words. I was used to that look. She'd given it to me once when I backed into a tree in her dad's driveway, and once when I forgot her mother's birthday. But this time, it wasn't disappointment. It was fear. The kind that lives behind the eyes and crawls across the skin. "What is this?" she finally asked, her voice a low rasp, like she hadn't used it in hours. I leaned back in my chair. The cheap wood creaked beneath me. "A memory," I said. She stared at the photo again. Her hand twitched, like she was trying to come up with a story fast enough to cover whatever she thought I knew. But the picture had done too much damage already. Her game face was slipping. "Who gave this to you?" she asked, sharper now, like maybe she thought this was still a negotiation. I raised an eyebrow. "That's what you're opening with. Not, it's not what it looks like. Not, you're misunderstanding. Not even that's old." I paused. Interesting. She blinked again. Once, twice. She was calculating now. I could almost hear the spreadsheet in her brain resorting itself. But she didn't realize I was already 10 steps ahead. "You're being dramatic," she said, her voice shaking. "This could be anything. This isn't. This isn't proof of anything." I almost laughed. "That's true," I said. "One picture, not proof. One conversation, though that's a bit more convincing." Her jaw tightened. "What are you talking about?" I reached behind me and pressed a button on the cheap Bluetooth speaker by the microwave. It gave a little beep, and then her voice filled the room. "Just say it back to me, Jace. Say it. I want to hear you say you missed me." "I missed you," a man's voice replied. "You're the only part of this trip that felt real." She purred. "Let's not go home. Let's get lost." No more pretending. She lunged for the speaker, but I picked it up before she could touch it. Her hand hung there midair for a moment, then slowly dropped to her side. The moment was over. No use pretending now. How long? I asked. She didn't respond. How long has it been going on, Mirella? She finally met my eyes, and something behind hers cracked. Does it matter? It was the wrong answer, but it was the real one. I nodded once. Okay. I stood, grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair, and walked past her. She didn't move, just stood there like a statue with mascara. At the door, I paused. You know, I said without turning around, you smiled when you walked in like life had never been sweeter. I was curious what would make that smile fall off your face. I opened the door halfway, then turned and looked back. I guess now we both know. Then I walked out. Not because I had a plan, but because for the first time in years, I didn't need one. I didn't go far, just far enough. There's this 24-hour diner called Marcy's that sits across from a car wash and 2 flickering gas pumps. No one goes there at night except truckers, drunks, and people avoiding their own homes. I ordered a coffee I wouldn't drink and sat at a booth by the window, watching the darkness between cars like something might crawl out of it. My phone buzzed a few times. First, a text from Mirella, then another. By the 5th one, she dropped the baby and was typing like a lawyer, measured, careful, trying not to incriminate herself. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I opened a different app, the one my cousin helped me set up. See, a month ago, after one too many nights of hearing her giggle in the bathroom behind a locked door, I asked my cousin Owen, a cybersecurity analyst, for a favor. I told him I suspected Mirella was hiding something on her iCloud. He said he didn't want to get involved in marriage stuff. I told him I didn't want a divorce. I just wanted the truth. Turns out, the truth is louder than most people expect. With a few scripts and a password I guessed from the back of her old notebook, I had access to a mirror of her phone data. Most of it was innocent. Work emails, grocery lists, a selfie with a dog she never showed me. But on the 2nd day of her Cincinnati leadership retreat, she saved something in her personal files under the name Old Doc's Taxes. Inside that folder, photos, dozens of them. Not of paperwork, not of conference rooms. Of her in a hotel bathroom mirror. Of her, from behind, wearing nothing but her wedding ring. Of a man, faceless in most of them, holding her waist like he owned her. And a short video, 37 seconds long. I didn't watch the whole thing. I couldn't. Not because it was graphic, but because I recognized the room. I had stayed in that exact room once, 2 years ago on a business trip of my own. Same weird green tile, same chipped corner on the mirror. It was the kind of detail that burned through everything else. That was 3 nights ago. I hadn't said a word since. I needed to see if she would lie when she came home. Needed to give her one last chance to explain it, confess it, do anything human. But she walked in laughing, humming, smelling like someone else's story. I looked out the diner window, into the blurry haze of the gas station lights, and realized something even worse than betrayal. I didn't miss her. I missed who I thought she was. My phone buzzed again. This time, a call. I let it ring out. She didn't leave a voicemail. She knew better. Instead, I sent her one message. Just one. A picture of the file folder on my screen in 2 words. Keep lying. Then I turned my phone off. I didn't know where I'd sleep that night. Maybe in my car, maybe in Owen's garage. Maybe I'd drive to the coast and stare at the black water like they do in movies. But I knew one thing for sure. The smile she wore when she walked in, that was over. And I wasn't going to be the one explaining anything anymore. By morning, I still hadn't slept. The sun came up like it didn't care about anything that happened the night before. It lit up the dashboard of my car, and revealed every dusty vent, every crumpled receipt, every piece of quiet I'd collected in my life. I sat parked in front of the old dog park off Willow Creek. No dogs. Just frost and silence and the sharp sting of realizing I had no idea where home was anymore. I checked my phone. 13 unread texts, 2 missed calls, a new voicemail. I didn't listen to it. Instead, I drove back. Not because I wanted to see her, but because I needed to know what she would do when she realized I wasn't just bluffing. Would she cry? Would she deny everything? Would she try to flip the narrative? What I didn't expect was for her to be gone. The house was still. Too still. No music. No coffee brewing. Her coat was missing from the hook. Her laptop bag gone. I checked the bedroom, the bathroom, even the laundry room. Then I saw it. On the kitchen table, in the exact spot where I had left the photo last night, was a folded sheet of paper. Her handwriting. Tight, neat, rehearsed. You're not answering me, so here it is. I'm not proud. I never meant for it to go this far. It was a mistake. One that gave me something I didn't even realize I was craving. I didn't plan to fall for someone else. But you have to know, it wasn't about you. It was never about hurting you. I just wanted to feel something again. She signed it, M. No apology, no specifics. Just that. Cold and polished like a HR memo. And what chilled me more than her words was what was taped to the bottom of the page. A hotel keycard. Room 219. She wanted me to see it. Not just know. She was daring me to understand the why. Or maybe she just wanted to control the fallout. Give me a carefully crafted story before I created my own. I should have felt something. Rage, sadness, closure. But all I felt was blank. I put the letter down and opened her laptop. Wrong password. The old one didn't work anymore. Neither did her usual 3 guesses. Our anniversary, her mother's birthday, in the name of our first cat. I stared at the login screen, a dull gray field that reflected my face back at me like a mirror. Then I tried something ridiculous. I typed, room 219. It unlocked. She hadn't just been careless, she was cocky. The desktop background had changed. No more smiling couple photos. Now it was some stock image of a beach, almost too peaceful, like she needed to hide from the mess she'd made. I opened her downloads folder. And that's when I stopped breathing. There was a zip file, dated 3 days ago, titled, Personal Archive. Inside, audio messages. One after another, she'd recorded voice memos. To him, the first one was short. You. Make it easy to forget who I am at home. That scares me, but I love it. The next one. Calder asked me last night what my dream was. I couldn't tell him it's waking up next to you. And the longest one, buried at the bottom of the list, recorded less than 12 hours before she came home to me. You said you'd wait. I don't want to wait anymore. I'm not running. I'm ready. I'll tell him. No more lying. He deserves the truth. Except she didn't tell me. She walked in laughing. Humming. She chose to lie again. And now? Now she was gone. The house felt hollow, like the truth had sucked all the oxygen out of it. I closed the laptop. I didn't know where she went, or what her next move was. But I finally knew what mine would be. The keycard burned in my hand all afternoon. Room 219. I stared at the embossed numbers like they might rearrange themselves into something I could make sense of. I didn't go to the hotel. I wasn't ready. It felt like walking into a museum built entirely out of betrayal, velvet ropes, and laminated paint. So I stayed home, sat at the kitchen table, and listened to her audio messages again, one by one, each, word carving into me like they were meant to leave scars. I replayed them because I needed to understand something she never said out loud. Was she in love with him? And maybe worse, was she out of love with me? But no matter how many times I pressed play, I couldn't find a straight answer. Every sentence was full of half measures and suggestive pauses. She'd been living 2 lives, but she hadn't committed to either. She wanted the thrill of the other man without letting go of the safety net that was me. I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a placeholder, a ghost keeping the lights on. Around 5 p.m., the doorbell rang. I froze. No one visits me unannounced. I live on a street where Amazon drivers knock twice, and neighbors text before walking over. I opened the door cautiously. It wasn't her. It was a man in his early 20s, nervous, fidgeting, wearing a delivery badge I didn't recognize. No logo, just a cheap laminated card clipped to a coat pocket. "You Cal?" "Called her?" he asked, squinting at a piece of paper. I nodded slowly. "I got a drop-off for you. Special item, prepaid, no signature needed." He handed me a small black envelope with no return address. I was told to hand-deliver it, not leave it at the door. I took it, and he turned without another word. Inside was a USB drive. No note, no instructions. Just that. I stared at it for almost an hour before plugging it into her laptop. It was encrypted. A password screen popped up, and I groaned, assuming I'd hit another dead end. But on a whim, I tried her backup birthday, the fake one she used when she didn't want companies tracking her real info. It opened immediately. There was a single folder inside titled, "Break Glass in Emergency." My palms started to sweat. Inside that folder, a series of screenshots, dozens, text messages, video stills, and GPS logs. Not from her device, but from his. She hadn't just been reckless. She had been spying on him, tracking his movements, logging his conversations, capturing phone calls. At first, I thought she was trying to protect herself backup in case I found out. But then I read the timestamps. These weren't new. They dated back months. And the way she annotated some of them, with notes in the margins like, "Ask him about this lie," or "He left at 2:43 a.m. Who was he with?" It hit me. She didn't trust him either. They weren't lovers in some fantasy escape plan. They were addicts feeding each other what they thought they wanted, all while lying to each other. I scrolled through a string of screenshots from an encrypted chat app. Messages between him and a third contact saved under the name Dahlia Jace. I can't keep this going. She's spiraling. Watching me. Following me. Dahlia. End it clean or make her end it herself. Just don't leave a trail. Jace. I think she already found something. She mentioned her husband last night. Dahlia. Then we're done here. She's a liability. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Morella had been playing me, but someone else had been playing her. That's when I realized something that made my throat go dry. She hadn't run. She didn't leave because of guilt. She vanished because she was scared, and maybe she wasn't hiding from me. Maybe she was hiding from them. I shut the laptop and sat completely still for a long time. Not because I was confused, but because the story I thought I was in had just cracked wide open. I wasn't the only one she betrayed, but I might be the only one who cared enough to save her. And I wasn't sure anymore if that made me weak or dangerously stupid. The storm hit just after midnight. Not metaphorically, an actual storm. Thick drops hammering the roof, wind bending the trees sideways. The kind of weather that makes small towns feel like ghost stories. I was still sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the USB drive like it might start speaking. My head throbbed. Not from lack of sleep, but from trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces didn't seem to belong to the same box. Morella hadn't come back. No calls. No texts. But someone had tried to reset her iCloud password twice in the last hour. I got the alerts because I was still logged in on her old tablet. Whoever was trying wasn't her. They knew something was there. The same way I did. Around 12:41 a.m., a message came through from a number not in my contacts. If you want to understand her, go to the corner of Nelson and 4th. Look for what doesn't belong. That was it. No name. No threats. Just directions that read like a line from a scavenger hunt written by someone without fingerprints. I hesitated for almost 10 minutes. I wasn't the guy who did things like this. I wasn't brave. I wasn't reckless. I was the man who used coupons and filed taxes early. I was the background husband. Reliable, predictable, forgettable. But something in me shifted that night, not out of rage or vengeance, but because the version of Morella I'd been mourning no longer existed. She had erased herself piece by piece until all that was left was a shadow. I didn't want her back. I wanted to know who the hell she really was, and I wasn't going to find that answer sitting in a house full of her half-lies. I drove across town in the storm, wipers struggling, headlights bouncing off soaked pavement. Nelson and 4th was a dead-end intersection where a thrift store used to be before it caught fire last summer. Nothing was there now but the charred outline of a building and an old delivery truck that had probably been abandoned years ago. But something was there. In the glow of the street lamp, leaning against the passenger door of the truck, was a single high-heeled shoe. Black. Suede. The kind I'd seen Morella wear only once, the night of our 9th anniversary. I parked, stepped, into the rain and walked toward it. As I got closer, I noticed something else, a phone. Not hers. A burner. Face cracked, screen lit up with a single image, a blurry selfie of Morella and the man from the hotel mirror. Same jawline, same jacket. But in this one, he wasn't smiling, and neither was she. It looked like it had been taken in a rush. Her face was pale, and his eyes weren't on the camera. They were looking past it. I picked up the phone. There was only one number in the call history. An outgoing call, placed earlier that day. No name, just a number. I didn't recognize it, but before. I could think twice I called it. 1 ring, 2. Then silence. No voicemail. Just this automated message. The user you are trying to reach is no longer accepting incoming calls. And then, a voice behind me. You shouldn't be here. I turned so fast I slipped, my hand hitting the wet pavement. A man in a long coat stood under the edge of the awning, barely visible. I froze. Who are you? He didn't answer. Instead, he said, She's not missing. She's hiding. Not from you. From who? You already have pieces of the answer. Be smart, enough not to put them together too loudly. What does that even mean? I snapped, stepping forward. He raised one hand, palm flat like a cop directing traffic. Go home, called her. She left you clues, but you weren't the only one watching her. There are people who don't want those clues to go anywhere. And just like that, he turned and walked away, vanishing into the shadows behind the thrift store's broken wall. I should have chased him. I didn't. I picked up the shoe, stuffed the burner phone into my jacket, and left. When I got home, the front door was slightly ajar, and her suitcase, the one she took with her on the trip, was sitting in the hallway again. Unzipped. Half empty. Like someone had come back just long enough to say one thing. You're not done yet. I didn't touch the suitcase. At first, I just stared at it, half lit by the hallway lamp, its zipper gaping like an open mouth that had already confessed more than it should have. Her perfume lingered faintly around it, lavender again, but colder now, like it had been carried in by the wind and not her skin. The same suitcase she'd taken with her to Cincinnati. The same one I'd helped load into the back of a car I now wasn't sure was even ordered through an app. And now it was back, sitting in the exact spot where I had first noticed something was wrong with her smile. It wasn't that she came home smiling. It was why she thought she still could. I crouched slowly and unzipped the main compartment further. On top, folded with surgical precision, was a red sweater I didn't recognize. Beneath that, not her usual travel stuff. No makeup bag, no chargers, no half-eaten protein bars. Just a hardcover notebook with no label, wrapped in a rubber band that had been snapped and re-looped, and a second phone. This one newer, spotless, still powered off. No passcode, no fingerprint lock. I turned it on. Only one app had been used. Voice memos, dozens of recordings. None of them longer than 2 minutes. Each titled with a date and a single initial. Not C for Calder, but D. I pressed play on the most recent one. I saw him again. Near the escalators by gate 4. He didn't say anything this time. He just looked. He always just looks. It's worse than shouting, like he's cataloging me, like he's confirming I'm still under control. My heart beat faster. Her voice was low, strained, breathless. Not the confident tone I was used to hearing when she argued with me or pretended to love me. This was someone else. Someone who was already halfway underground. If anything happens to me, if I disappear, tell Calder. He doesn't deserve this. He never did. I wish I could have warned him before it all started, but I didn't know back then what I was walking into. I stopped the recording. I had to sit down. She wasn't just cheating. She was being watched, tracked, possibly blackmailed. But why? And who the hell was D? I flipped through the notebook, fingers trembling. Most of it was indecipherable, shorthand symbols, meeting places, coded references like mirror drop equals successful, and signal confirmed from warehouse. But then, halfway through, I found a phrase circled over and over, so hard the pen had ripped through the paper. Do not trust room 219. I froze. The room I thought it had all started in. The room in the photo. The room on the keycard she left. Not a love nest. A trap? I suddenly remembered the man outside the burned-out thrift store. She's not missing. She's hiding. Not from you. Then I remembered what he said next. Be smart enough not to put the pieces together too loudly. My hands were ice cold. I took the phone and the notebook, stuffed them back into the suitcase, and slammed it shut. I was shaking now. Not from fear, exactly, but from the knowledge that I was standing in the middle of something way, way over my head. I didn't care about the affair anymore. That wasn't the betrayal I needed answers for. I needed to know why my wife had been recording messages in code. I needed to know why someone warned me not to look too close. And I needed to know why, after all of this, I still hadn't called the police. I was in deep, and I was starting to wonder if I'd ever really known anything about Morella at all. It was morning again. Not the quiet, dreamy kind. The sharp-edged kind where the air feels like paper and every sound is too loud. I hadn't slept. The suitcase was still by the door. The second phone sat on the counter, its last few recordings still unplayed. I didn't press play on any of them. Not yet. Not until I had answers that came from her mouth, not a memory card. Around 7 to 12 a.m., I heard a car pull into the driveway. I didn't stand up. I didn't race to the window. I just sat at the table, hands folded like I was waiting for a job interview I never asked for. Then, a knock. I knew it was her before I saw her. Another knock. I stood, slowly, and opened the door halfway. Morella stood there, soaked, hair pulled back, eyes bloodshot. No makeup, no games. Just her, the real version I hadn't seen in years. She didn't speak at first. She just stared at me like she couldn't believe I was still here. "Can I come in?" She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," I said. "Not yet." Her shoulders slumped. She looked down at her hands. You listened, didn't you? I did. Then you know. I don't know enough, I said. But I know you were scared. And I know you were alone. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't cry. I didn't plan for any of this, she said. The affair wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was desperation. A way out that turned into a worse kind of trap. Who's Dee? I asked. She hesitated. Dahlia, she said. She was my contact, her handler. I don't know what to call her anymore. I felt a chill. Contact for what? I worked for them. Briefly, for the company. The one Jace was involved in. It started out as consulting, data cleanup. Then things got darker. Illegal. I tried to pull back, but it was too late. Jace was their way of keeping me quiet. He wasn't just the affair, he was the leash. And room 219? I asked. A test, she said. They told me to take you there. Plant something. I said no. That's when they knew I wasn't useful anymore. I started saving everything, voice memos, screenshots, recordings, in case something happened to me. I left it where I knew only you would find it. You disappeared. I didn't know who to trust. I looked at her for a long time. She stood there, shivering slightly, still not stepping across the threshold. I don't trust you yet, I said honestly. But I believe you want to come clean. She nodded. I do. All of it. We sat at the table for 3 hours, no interruptions, no lies. She showed me every file. She told me names, timelines, the truth as best as she understood it, not just about the affair, but about the people behind it, the manipulation. The reason she smiled when she came home, because she thought it was over, and then panicked when she saw that it wasn't. I won't pretend everything was forgiven in one day, but I also won't pretend that I walked away. Sometimes, the strongest move isn't cutting someone off. Sometimes it's listening. We reported everything, quietly. Through a contact Owen had, a federal analyst who knew what to do with encrypted drives and names that didn't show up in normal databases. We didn't go public, didn't post online, didn't burn bridges. We just told the truth to the people who needed to hear it most. Months passed, and something happened I never expected. We got better, not overnight. Not with therapy brochures and inspirational quotes, but with silence, patience, presence. We started talking again. We started asking each other hard questions. We started looking each other in the eyes instead of past them. One evening in early spring, I walked into the kitchen and saw her cooking, in her socks, humming to herself. Not the haunting tune from before, a new one, a peaceful one. She turned when she saw me. You okay? She asked. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I think I finally am. And I meant it, because sometimes surviving the storm doesn't mean escaping it. It means learning how to walk through it together.